I sat them in front of the TV to watch Reading Rainbow. And I went and I packed up a bag and decided that I was going to sneak out of the house. And I make my way to the front door. And then I turned around because I heard something. And it turned out that my brother and my sisters had followed me.
Aziza, where are you going?
And I said, I have to leave. I can't stay here. And he says, well, can we come with you? And I says, no, you have to stay here with Mommy and Daddy. And then one of my sisters started crying.
What's gonna happen to us?
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, and welcome to another episode of Supporting Black Authors Book Club. I am your host, Minister Deborah Davis, coming to you live from Facebook and YouTube, as I do every Tuesday night with an awesome author. And listen, we have an amazing author tonight. I'm going to tell you a little bit about her, and then we're going to bring her on. I'm just going to read her bio and tell you a little bit about AZIZA KIBIBI, author, media personality, multimedia journalist, public speaker, activist, mother, and survivor. When she was 8 years old, AZIZA was molested by her biological father, MTV award-winning video director Aswad Allende. By the time she was 12, he deemed her his sex slave and refused to continue her homeschool education. At 15, she became pregnant with her first child from her father. And over the years, AZIZA bore 4 children from her father, 2 of whom have genetic disorders. After mental and sexual abuse for most of her life, at 24 years old, AZIZA finally found liberation from the harrowing existence she knew. Now a published author, the CEO of a nonprofit organization, an advocate for women's rights, a multimedia journalist and personality, and a magna cum laude graduate holding 2 bachelor's degrees in media. AZIZA is a testament of strength, endurance, triumph, and the power of God. 1 out of 4 women have been sexually abused as a child, but the shame and guilt associated with being a victim makes even those numbers inaccurate. This is the reason why AZIZA has written her book, Unashamed, A Life Tainted. As an author, AZIZA educates and inspires while raising awareness on issues that affect our community. She's currently working on a novel, a self-help book, and a screenplay, exploring the historical impacts of slavery on Black relationships. Since being interviewed by renowned journalist Katie Couric, AZIZA has been invited to speak and make appearances at churches and schools and colleges, news shows, radio shows, and conferences, where she used her testament to inspire and motivate her audience. For 2 years, she was dedicated interview correspondent and segment producer for WPTV6 news show, News Now, where she had the pleasure of interviewing presidential historian John Meacham and civil and human rights activist Anita Hill. I'm going to stop right there. AZIZA has a very lengthy bio, and I'm going to leave some for her to share. I do want to say that she's eloquent and she's poised. She articulates very well, very highly educated, beautiful. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to some and introduce to others AZIZA KIBIBI. Hello,
Hello.
Nicole. How are you, darling?
I'm fine, Deborah. How are you?
Oh, I'm so blessed. I'm so blessed. You've done a lot. You've done a whole lot.
I
And
sure have.
I was reading your bio, and then I was like, okay, now we got page 2. I'm gonna just let her talk about that.
I know you read my bio. That's like sent out with my resume and stuff. But and there's more. That's the cut down version.
And look, but we're going to talk about her book tonight, Unashamed, A Life Tainted. I want to welcome everyone that's viewing tonight. Some diehard viewers, top fans of supporting Black Authors Book Club. I thank y'all. I appreciate y'all so much. Darlene, Aku, Debbie, Jackson, Gwen, Valerie, Tahisha, hi, Crystal. I want to just welcome you all to supporting Black Authors Book Club. Aziza is going to tell her story, and I just want you to feel comfortable. Realize that you're not alone. I too am a survivor at the hands of my biological father, and that's what drew me to you. Not nearly as much of what you went through, baby. So I'm going to just turn things over to you. I might jump in every now and then. But one thing I do want to mention out of your bio, where you mentioned 1 out of 4 when young girls are molested. And that number is not accurate because they don't all tell. I'm the one that did not tell.
Okay.
So I want to share that's an accurate statement right there.
Yeah.
Because some of us have that Stockholm syndrome, and some are just afraid. So I'm going to give you the floor, beautiful, so you can tell us what happened and how it all started.
Okay. I'm going to use that statistic to get started because I was one of those as well. I didn't escape my father until I was 23 years old. So my father, he was the music director for the Fugees. His most known work is "Killing Me Softly," originally sung by Roberta Flack, but remade by Lauryn Hill and Wyclef Jean and Proswell of the Fugees. But as he was building his career in the music industry, a lot of people didn't know what was going on behind the scenes, and that specific secret was the fact that he was a pedophile. He had been molesting me from when I was 8 years old. And over the years, he started raping me at 10 years old. I got pregnant at 15. He deemed me his sex slave at 12. He didn't even believe when I had my period. This is just how much I think he was trying to keep me a child. So for the first couple of times I had my period, I was kind of on my own because he just refused to believe that I was growing up into a woman. Nevertheless, when I did get pregnant and my mom really had to also convince him, like, Aziza's pregnant, it took him a minute to accept it. But then the interesting thing is that changed. After my first daughter for him was born with no genetic defects that we could see, he decided he was going to continue to breed me. He had already told me from when I was young and announced to my siblings that I was not going to be getting married, that I would not have a boyfriend. I was not allowed to have a boyfriend or talk to boys. And the thing is, even though our family was big and there was a lot of children, everyone in the family were trained to report on what everyone else was doing. So anytime a boy tried to talk, I wasn't allowed outside the gate. There was a fence around our home. I wasn't allowed outside of the gate. But if a boy tried to talk to me from the other side, then my brother would tell my father. So I think that this was really part of, him developing the mental control that he had on us. Then after I had my second daughter, and she did have some issues, she did not develop normally. She never crawled. She went straight from just like scooting around her on her stomach to walking. And this was because that for the 2 years that I had her, she had a terrible, terrible skin condition. And it turned out that she was born with phenylketonuria, which is a metabolic disease. And then when I had my third child, how everything got discovered is because due to malnourishment, not being able to go outside, limited exposure to the sun, things like that, my son one day woke up with seizures. And that's what got the ball rolling as far as social services being notified. Now, the interesting thing is that throughout this time, people had reported on my father, but diapers had come in at some point. They decided they didn't find enough evidence to say that there was any kind of abuse going on. My family had reported my father for domestic violence when he would beat my mother. And none of those things were just enough. You know, the system, the law enforcement system, during at the time, this is like in the 80s, early 90s. At the time, you know, it just was a different time. It wasn't where we are now. I mean, unfortunately, a lot of these things, how the system handles domestic violence and child abuse is still definitely lacking. So as far as trying to change how these issues are taken care of, I have my organization called Precious Little Ladies. Strengthen the bond between mothers and daughters to combat child molestation, domestic violence, incestuous abuse, and sexual assault. And we really work on empowering families and women and children specifically, because I felt that was definitely lacking in my household. My mom was there and present for everything. So you would think that as I share my story, it's just, you know, me and my father and a bunch of kids, but my mom was there the whole time. She was a battered woman. At the same time, even her having to deal with the fact that her husband was, quote unquote, cheating on her with her daughter, she treated me not like a daughter. So I just think that it's very important that women, mothers, and daughters have a very strong relationship so the child can be trusting of the parent, to be able to report and be comfortable in sharing any challenges that's going on.
You were getting it from both ends, from both parents, really.
Right,
you know,
right.
Because
go ahead.
Yeah, so I just want to say, because your mother was in the home, you know, like in my situation, my biological father did not live with us, you know, so he just came and picked me up and took me out of the home, you know, so I think it's a little different because your mother was there. I want to talk to you, Aziza, about that, how that made you feel towards your mother, you know, with her being in the home, although she was being abused, you know, because I think back as a mother, and I had different male boyfriends come in my house, and the first thing I would say to them, you know, and I had abusive men, and the first thing I would say to them, you're not to touch my boys. If you touch my boys, you die. You know, I knew that. I knew that. And that never happened. And I don't care how much they would get drunk, how much they would whip me up, they would touch those two, because I really was protective and I really meant that. So how did that make you feel towards your mother and her not really protecting you as a mother? Sure.
Well, at the time, I felt helpless. You know, the two people in my life that I was taught to look to for guidance, this was the guidance that they were giving me. In my mind, this was still guidance. A lot of the time, especially between the ages of 10 and 12, you know, I accepted what was happening to me as something that was supposed to happen to me, because my father initially told me that this is what all fathers did with their daughters to teach them how to do it.
Aziza, the same thing. So, you know, that's the same thing I was told. This is what happens. And not only that, he used scripture against me.
Mm.
Genesis chapter 19, where Lot's daughters got him drunk and slept with him, so that they can carry out mankind. And he used that scripture. And then he said, this is what's supposed to happen. This is normal. You got the same talk. This is what's supposed to happen. This is normal.
Right.
That's a brain hack.
Exactly. And I don't know where I don't know where these demons sit down in class and learn this stuff from, but I am fascinated. I know that doesn't sound that right, but I'm fascinated at how this message, the grooming process, is spread along, or is it innate to those who abuse? Because I've spoken to other women and they have very similar stories about what the abuser told them, especially if it's a parent, what their parent told them. And I'm like, well, we have it's probably more than two ways, but I know one way is if it was done to them, right? We have to consider the fact that often abusers have been abused. For me, that's no excuse because I'm not abused, right? I'm not an abuser. At the same time, I could see how they pick up techniques,
right,
how to control someone in that manner.
Exactly. So let me just ask you: did you trust? Was there a place in you that said that you trusted your dad? Like you didn't know anything else really. So like you trusted what he said. You trusted his word. You trusted him as a parent.
My father was my hero. My father was my hero. My parents in general, their relationship to me was an ideal relationship. He was respected in our community. He had people that would come and listen to him speak. He was gifted. He was talented. So yes, of course I believed in it. I mean, I'm 8 years old. I'm 9 years old. If daddy said to do something, then of course I had to do it. But then at the same time, which I think where our youth today are really kind of conflicted and combating with people in positions of authority over them, and that how do I know that what you're telling me is right?
Right. Well, let's talk about that 8-year-old for a minute, okay? Because you said that you were 8 years old.
Yeah.
And at 8 years old, you're not developed. You don't have your period. You're a kid. You're still playing with Barbie dolls, and you're still a little girl. So I want to talk about that 8-year-old, and when you were the very first time your father abused you, molested you, raped you at 8 years old. Let's talk about that. And what was your first response of how that made you feel as his daughter?
Well, the first time, like I said, as much as me and my siblings loved our father, we still feared him. He was the authority figure in our family. So he used corporal punishment. So he's the one that beat us if we did something wrong. He's the one that gave us punishment. If mommy said, I'm telling your father when we come home, yes, we did shake in our boots. So the day that he did molest me for the first time, he called me into his bedroom and I thought I was in trouble. And then I was relieved, that I wasn't in trouble. But at the same time, when he took me into this back enclosed place and started performing oral sex on me, it was extremely confusing. I would say that would be the overlying emotion, just absolutely confused, because mommy taught me that no one is supposed to touch or look down there except her when there's a problem. We didn't go to doctors, so it's not like I had ever had anybody else looking or doing anything with my private area except my mother. So when my father was doing it, it's like, okay, well, I know your daddy, I know you're telling me that this is what is supposed to happen, but at the same time, mommy's been telling me all this time that's not supposed to happen. So after he finished, I don't know how to explain it, but after he stopped molesting me at that time, I asked him, was it okay to tell mommy? And he told me no. And I asked him why not. And, that's when he got stern, because before then he was completely, you're my girl, you're my daughter. This is my special secret. This is our special secret. I'm so proud of you, that kind of thing. Because I was the oldest. I was the oldest, I think, of 4 or 5 by that time. So I had a lot of responsibility. My parents started leaving me at home with my brothers and sisters at a very young age. So as far as
and that's part of the grooming. That's part of the grooming,
right,
to tell you, you know, you're special. You're my favorite. You know, I love you. I love you the most. You know, that's part of the grooming, and it's a form of the brainwashing. You know, to make you believe that in one way, this is what love really is. Not really realizing what it means to have a real loving father, a real loving parent. You understand? Like, in my instance as well, Aziza, because I don't want you to feel like you're alone right here today. You know, it happened to me, but in my feelings towards my daddy or my parents, was a strong daughter feeling. You want that fatherly love. You're yearning for that love, and no matter how much they abuse, no matter how much they discipline or whatever, how hard that you still yearn for that love. You went through a lot, Aziza. You had 5 babies. 5. When did you realize and know that this is absolutely cannot be a normal situation? When did it first hit you?
I would say, well, it was before I got pregnant that I guess you can say the truth, that I think that I believe that we all innately know the truth. I think that we are connected to the universe. We connect to God, and the God within us really knows the truth. And we have distractions, right? We have, whether it's other people, media, this human body that really distracts us from what the truth is. So I would say at 12 years old, when my father got more violent, when I would question him more, he promised me that I could go. We were homeschooled. He promised me that I could go to high school. So now that time is approaching, and the idea of going to high school is just being pushed back and pushed back more and pushed back more. He started having intercourse with me, which he started having intercourse with me at 10 years old. And it was painful because he's a grown man and I'm a little girl. And when I started to fight back now, because my questions aren't being answered, there are more negative repercussions for my non-compliance. If I would try and fake sleep when my father would come in my room at night to get me up, and he would carry me out and then yell at me and tell me that I was being immature. So it became just more of a more painful experience. That whole seductive grooming process was long gone. And by then, as my mind is developing, I'm wondering, well, either I did something that brought this negative attention on me, which, yes, my father was very spiritual. I mean, in some ways, he was very religious, and he used spiritual abuse as well, and convinced us that we had to be worthy. And at one point, we could no longer pray to God. We'd have to pray to him, and he would get the message of God. So there was just like a lot of different levels. So here I am finally fighting back, and he wasn't having it. And as a grown man, by now, he's choking me, he's beating me, he's punching me in my face. And of course, by then, because I was fighting, that's when I know, okay, this is definitely wrong, because nobody can know. It hurts. I mean, any regular, normal markers that you would use to say that this is a bad thing. And clearly at this stage, between 10, 11, and 12, it was a very bad thing.
Yeah, I can agree with that. Like, people, sometimes I would get the question too, when did you know, or did you know that right from wrong? Did you know it was wrong, that what was happening to you? Because after you get a certain age, people think that now that you're of age, that you should know better now.
Right.
And that's some of the stuff I begin like, how, what do you mean? Like when you get a certain age, you should know better. You're already abused. You're already thinking that you're not worthy. You're already brainwashed, and you feel like you can't get out. And this is coming from somebody that you're looking up to. You're looking up to that person to say, go to school. You're looking for, don't get pregnant. You're looking for, don't do drugs. Don't. And then this person is doing all those things to you. When did you realize that enough is enough? I know now because you said at age 12, but you still had five pregnancies. Five pregnancies. Also, I read in the book when you were 20, you moved out and your father moved in with you. So was this all, was that not right? Was this all in the time that all the abuse was going on, and if you were at the point where you were just terrified of leaving, or you were afraid of calling the police? Let's talk about that, because I know that the one thing was your son getting sick was a straw that broke the camel's back. So when did the real straw, was it the son getting sick or the abuse? Tell us about it. Let's talk about when you really said enough is enough. I've got to get out of this.
Well, the moment that I said enough was enough actually was after my children were taken away by social services.
I read them.
And then my father, in my self-analyzation, when I look back on my growth process and how I went from, essentially a scared, controlled little girl to a woman who felt confident enough to stand up to her assailant, it had a lot to do with education, because my children were taken away from me and I was working and in the process of looking to get them back. I learned a lot about the system, because my father had also instilled in us that the government was evil. And he was really into, social issues and Black people in America and their role, and enslaved peoples, our history of being enslaved. And he taught us all of those things. So I've learned African American history since, I mean, Martin Luther King's speech was on replay in our house. So when that moment came, I had gotten a lot of information on how the system worked, on how the judicial system worked, on how the government and vital statistics, because I had to try and get my children did not have birth certificates or social security numbers. Wow. So I had to figure out how to find all of those things. Ooh. And I think through that process, my brain essentially evolved, and I was able to feel confident enough in myself to say, like, look, this asshole, excuse my language, has been lying the whole time, right? There are people out there that are willing to help. There is a way for me to get away from this and not be dependent, and provide for myself and provide for my children.
And you're doing an awesome job, AZIZA. You articulate so well. You're so beautiful. You have come a long way, my dear. You have so much to be proud of, darling. Let me tell you, we know God. God does work in mysterious ways. You are a testimony. And I had to ask God those questions too. I had to ask him why all these things happened, and what God said to me. He told me that I was chosen for such a time as this. You're chosen, young lady, for such a time as this. God had to use somebody, and he chose you, and all the pain that we may have endured and all the pain that we may have suffered, God chose us to go through all of that for such a time as this, because he knew, look, that we were going to come out, step boldly to the throne of grace, that we may obtain mercy to find grace to help in a time of need, such as today. because there's so many people suffering that are not going to be bold like you, not going to be bold like me, and come and tell the world a dark, dirty secret that people have swept under the rug for too many years, for too long.
Right.
And I want to ask you, in all the pain that you were going through, and I'm going to ask you just like this: when did AZIZA fall in love with AZIZA? When did AZIZA find AZIZA?
Lord,
because it's written all over your face.
honestly, Deborah, from when I was a very young child, I guess you can say relationships are challenging. Let me put it like that. Relationships are challenging.
Yes.
You will fall in love and fall out of love and blame that person and then find them again. And, so I went through that with myself. As a child, I loved myself. I was the smartest thing. I was the cutest thing as far as I was concerned. I look at sometimes I was great traditional African dance. I was the best dancer in the crew. I was just it. So when this thing started happening to me, it was like, well, what did I do? What did I do wrong? And then yes, I was mad at myself. And and I think a lot of children, some children do go through this. Like I speak about in the organization, identifying children who are being molested.
Yeah, let's talk about your organization. Tell the viewers the name of your organization, how it came about, and give us a little brief synopsis of what it is that you do in your organization.
Okay, so it's called Precious Little Ladies. Our mission is to strengthen the bond between mothers and daughters to combat child molestation, incestuous abuse, domestic violence, and sexual assault. So one thing that I do is when I do speak to other women and a lot of the media content that I create for the organization, I have, in remembering all of my experience, because I have not blocked anything out, I went through a stage where I tried to deter my father because he was polygamous, right? He was polygamous. He had other women, and he made a huge deal. Looks was a big thing to him. Your body type, your face. So what I did was I stopped bathing. I stopped doing my hair. I stopped brushing my teeth. I did these things to prevent him from being attracted to me, because clearly that's what it was. So during that process, yes, I did think that I was ugly. And I mean, at some point he told me that I was not worthy of anybody else.
Hold that right there. You know why? That's the same thing that I was told. Okay. You're ugly. You're never gonna get married. Nobody's never gonna love you but me. Right. That's all a part of the brainwashing.
Exactly.
And it's funny, because what else do you have to believe? What else can you go by? If you have this person telling you all this stuff, eventually you do start believing that. I did start believing that I was ugly. I didn't want to look in the mirror. I did start believing that nobody was ever going to love me but him. I did start believing that I would never get married. But look, the devil is a liar, okay? We know. I had a chapter called The Big Lie, because the devil is a liar. Everything that they told us, AZIZA, was a lie.
I know.
Because you are beautiful. You did get married. Someone else did love you. Look at where God brought you from. Let's talk about what it is now that you're doing. I do want you to mention how things are going with the children, and I did want to also ask, when was your mother finally fed up, and when did she leave? Let's answer that one. Let's answer that.
Well, okay, so it's difficult to answer that question only because My mother and as well as my other siblings who were abused have chosen to keep to themselves, relating to what they went through and what they experienced. There is some tension at the fact that I do share about what happens to me. So about what happened to me. So out of respect for their own path and healing, I don't speak from their perspective. You know, I can't necessarily say that moment that my mom decided enough is enough, because I don't know if that ever happened. Right. I know that the events that led to us finally escaping my father, she was not necessarily an active participant in. You know, that was
I get you.
Yeah. So if you want to say, and then of course, even during that process, I wasn't always there because I had to take care of my own children. I had my own family to worry about. And honestly, I was very determined on taking away from my experience with my mother everything of what not to do.
Right. And your children are your siblings, but the real deal is your mom.
Right.
You know, and you had to explain that. You had to tell your children who their father was. How hard was that, AZIZA?
It wasn't difficult. It wasn't necessarily hard. I am extremely open, and partially because of my experience with secret keeping, it was more of a strategic decision of when to tell my children, whether I thought that their mental or emotional capacity could handle the truth. I never actually lied to them, but when my daughter was asking who her father was, I would tell her, I'll tell her when she gets older, right? I never told her, gave her some fake person, but I just I'll tell her when she get older. And then when that day came, she was around 12 or 13, I just plainly told her, the person who my grandmother has taught you to call grandpa is your father and is my father as well. And she was like, does that mean we're sisters? And yeah, that means we're sisters, but I'm mommy first. And, you know, it's an open conversation. It's something that we joke about. It's something that, you know, especially with my son, sometimes I have to be like, okay, listen, you. Stop talking to me like I'm your sister. It's a unique relationship. The fact that I was homeschooled, I didn't go to school. I lived vicariously through my children, through their public school experience, you know, which was exciting for me because that little girl that was taken advantage of, right, that did not experience a childhood, is still there. So I love, you know, a lot of I guess you can.
That's why my son would say to me, "Mommy, you so immature."
I don't think
I just do stuff normal teenagers would do that I didn't have a chance to do as a teenager.
Right. I don't think my daughters have ever called me immature, but they definitely that was cringeworthy.
Listen, AZIZA, you are brave. You are courageous. I don't even know what other words to tell you. Beautiful, articulate. You're strong. You know, and I'm just looking at a blessing and a miracle. And I'm looking at, you know, I can see myself to a certain extent, you know. So when that was happening, one thing we do think that we're alone. We think we're alone. I never thought that was happening to anyone else when I really realized.
That wasn't even a consideration.
No, not even thinking about it. And there was nothing. And look, there was no radio about people talking about. There was no shows coming on TV, like you said, back in the 80s. Nobody was talking about this. Everything was hush, hush, quiet, swept under the rug, you know. But I do believe that if there had been someone coming out and someone brave talking about this incest and child molestation, and that would have piqued our interest a little bit more because you were trying to watch TV. If you just saw something on TV, that could have helped you. So it's wonderful that you're helping other people. I'm going to tell my story. Everybody's not happy about this.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people are more ashamed of our stories than we are.
Right.
So I've had that. How could you tell that? How could you get on national TV and tell that? I said, look, that's my testimony. That's the testimony that God gave me. And if I don't tell it, that means I went through all that mess for nothing.
Right.
So God, He chose us. He brought us to this point. This is what He wants to do. This is His purpose. This is His plan. And you stick to that plan. You stick to the purpose. And I want you to tell everybody where they can get your book. Also, about your organization.
Okay. Well, you can get my book, Unashamed: The Life Tainted, Volume 1 and 2 on Amazon. It is available on Amazon. You can also go to my website to order autographed copies and also get it directly from the distributor. So if you want to put it in stores or you want to order like a bulk amount for an event or fundraiser or anything like that, it is available at bookbaby.com. But all those links are on my website, which is AZIZAKIBIBI.com. So it's my name. Yeah, my name.com.
AZIZA KIBIBI. That's such a pretty name. And your name stands for Precious.
Precious.
Okay. I knew it was precious something.
My whole name is AZIZA KIBIBI McGill Ayinde. So I use my first and my middle name as my author name. And the meaning is what the organization is called. So it's really about, nurturing that little lady in all of us, male or female. I think that for me, the little lady is that aspect of us, no matter how strong we are, that still needs to be protected, right? Yeah. You're male or female, there is still something deep inside that needs to be protected, that can be taken advantage of, that can be violated and exploited. So with the organization, PreciousLittleLadies.org or PLL nonprofit.
Yeah, Precious Little Ladies. Precious Little Ladies. That's your incorporation, which is a ministry. And so tell us how we can make donations to.
Go to PreciousLittleLadies.org and click the donate button, which is right there on the first page. We are 501.
That's right, baby. Put it on the front page.
We are a 501c3 corporation, so all donations are completely tax deductible. We have 4 programs. One is called the Girl We've Got You Covered program, where we collect health and beauty products to donate to women and children escaping abuse. So that's just ongoing. So even through the pandemic, we've been giving away shampoo, hair wash, masks,
I love it.
social distancing. So that's always a need. We'll take either the funds to buy the items or donations of the items itself, and also the location to donate is on the website. Our other program is the Raising Awareness campaign. So please go to our social media, PLL nonprofit. We have badges and photos and information that can be shared, videos that can be shared. I really believe that when you are in a position, like let's go after your child, because we are in the month of domestic violence awareness month, right? And women, we can talk about our fathers or uncles or people that are older than us as children who are oppressing us, but there are women who are being oppressed by people their same age. So a lot of that has to do with, the mental oppression, and honestly, often with love. A lot of times victims of abuse are really in love with the abuser and they just want the abuse to stop. It takes a woman 7 times before she is successful to leave her abuser. 7 attempts to leave the abuser before she is successful. So it's really about educating women on resources. I believe that if my mother had access to more resources, then she probably would have done something, but she didn't have the access. So we make it a point to share and network and just let the world know what resources are available and how to access them. And then we have 2 events that got put off because of COVID. One is the awareness raising kite flight, where we invite the organizations in the community to share their services with the community at an event where children are raising awareness by flying kites with the hashtags "It's Okay to Tell" and "You're Not Alone" on it. So we did one in 2019. It was successful. It was amazing. A lot of people said that it was totally original. So, I'm looking forward to do that next year. And then we have a family empowerment fair where we actually give workshops on preventing child molestation, social media. We have social media workshops for protecting your children during their interaction with social media and online, and also self-defense.
So
we have a self-defense workshop where, we need to teach our children and our women and anybody who wants it basic, simple ways of how to defend yourself. If you're coming home at night, you should have your keys in your hand just in case, someone comes from behind you. So those are the programs that we have, and,
I have my pepper spray.
keep them going.
Oh, but I will.
You can pass the plate at church.
That's so good.
Thank you.
In a minute. Lisa,
Yes.
before we sign off, did you have that poem?
Yes, I do.
Okay, let's hear your poem. Before we sign off, y'all, listen to this. Listen to this.
Yes, you mentioned some of the things you mentioned. That was in my bio. The script that I'm working on. I have a couple of screenplays that are actually 2 complete, and 1 is in the process. But I also write poetry. So,
you sure we're not?
Well, what? I think when you have been through, when you have made it through a traumatic experience, it really it forces you to grow a certain way, right? And to utilize the tools that God has given you to cope with the other that's going on. I do find that a lot of survivors that have reached a certain place in their healing are extremely creative. And I encourage survivors to tap into their creativity. Writing is extremely therapeutic. Writing, for me, I have written not only my book, but my poetry, and I'm able to read it back and really process how I feel about what I wrote and what happened to me. And it's just an ongoing healing process.
Yes, I myself is very, very creative. I make all my flyers, all my videos. And,
yes, you did the video, the promo video.
I just love making stuff, and it helps, that you can see that you are gifted and that you have these qualities about yourself that you were told that you didn't have, So
right.
I appreciate your honesty, your truthfulness, and your transparency, and yes, we do have a lot in common, my dear. We do. And I'm just grateful, I don't like to say for something, it sounds kind of funny, like when you say, it wasn't just me, that I feel better knowing that it wasn't just me. But how can you feel better about that? Because you really don't want nobody else to have gone through what we went through. But I think what it is more or less, you're not alone. You
Mm-hmm.
know, you're not alone. And I just want you to tell the viewers, what would you say to someone right now, Aziza, that is in a very abusive relationship, be it a woman or a child, boy or a girl, in this pandemic, behind the wall, behind the closed doors that might get a peep at what you're about to say? What would you say to them?
I would say to them, love you. You are worth for the suffering to stop. And the next thing is to educate yourself. Read as much as possible. Take in as much information. There is a way out. There is a way out. And also, it is okay to tell. It may be
Mhm,
difficult to find, that person that you can tell,
mhm,
but they're there. They are
mhm.
there. They are there. So, um,
Yes, I agree with the go tell.
yeah.
I wish I had my hotline up here, 1-800 RAIN. You can go to the RAIN website. I'm a member of RAIN,
Mhm.
and they have a hotline that you can call, and it is confidential. So it's RAINN, Rape Against Incest National Network. And you can get in touch with them, and they are confidential, and they will help you. So listen, young lady, I'm going to let you go ahead and read your poem before this battery die on this computer.
All right. So this,
My interviews, I all have to say, they're 30 minutes. Y'all know, but there's no way I could have let you go in 30 minutes. And I just want to say to the viewers that weren't on when we first came on, I just want to say I saw Aziza on the ID channel more than once. Every time her story came on, I stopped everything I was doing, dropped it, and I said, "There she is." And I said, "I'm going to get her. She's coming to Supporting Black Authors Book Club." Let me tell you something. You speak that thing into existence,
yeah,
it will happen. And you came and you didn't hesitate. And I love that. And I'm grateful. I'm so grateful that you came. Read your poem.
I really appreciate your receptivity, Deborah. Because the timing, they always say be in the right place at the right time, but I do think that intention has a lot to do with that. So yeah, when I got the message, it all worked out. It all worked out. It was meant to be. God said
Yes.
so, and here we are. I do want to just go to PLL nonprofit. Everyone, if anyone is on here that are looking for services, looking for people to talk to, even in the back of my book, there is, because RAIN, I've had my experiences with RAIN, which I can't say is the best, but there is the family helpline. Right, it's in the
Okay.
back of my book. It's a resource in the back of my book.
Okay.
It's 1-800 the kids, and you
Okay.
can literally call and you will talk to somebody right away. And if you're just having a bad day or it's just a tough time with dealing with the children, especially now during the pandemic, people
Mm-hmm.
are home with their kids. Literally, there will be people
That's
there
right.
that just help and listen. So we partner with them, and then we have our own hot site where we prefer texting more, just because we need more volunteers, more people to help as far as bodies helping. But it's
Mm-hmm.
877 tell PLL. Yeah, and on that note, I will read this because the time is.
That battery about to die.
All right. So this poem is called "The Production of a Drop." And it's dedicated to my daughter, my last daughter that was born, that was fathered by my father. She passed away October 17th, 2010. So
She
the
was 9 years old, right? 9.
yeah, she was 9. Actually, she was
Mm.
9. She would be 19 now. It's been 10 years. The anniversary actually just passed on Saturday. So
My deepest condolences to you,
thank you. Thank you.
passing of your dearly beloved daughter.
So it's called The Production of a Drop.
Okay.
Thoughts of you ran through my head today, as usual. Bittersweet memories shove me back to a period that is ever present in my mind. I imagine our time spent together, the struggles we endured together, the moments of joy we experienced with each other, and I miss them. As my surroundings blur so my mind's eye can focus on the visions of you occupying my brain, my stomach constricts like the palm of a fist. The energy in my groin begins to rise into the space in my belly that continues to get smaller and smaller as if it will implode on itself. I focus on your smile in my head and the way the hair on my arms would rise when you touched me. It's selfish of me, really. The self-pity I feel because I miss you. The energy in my belly begins to gyrate, looking for a way to escape because the force is just too great for this little space at the core of me. Instantly, it's not in my belly anymore. With one exhale, this energy skips past my lungs, unaffected by the intrusion of the immaterial mass. I'm lost in thought now, transported back to a time where I can smell the small crease between your collarbone and your jawline. I experience the tickling sensation between my fingers as they glide through your hair. Now my neck is warm and tingly. Forgetting for a moment the surge of energy climbing its way through the core of me, I notice my throat is dry, so I swallow. As the muscles in my mouth contract and relax, my jaws flood with saliva as if in anticipation of something in my stomach that needs to be digested. My esophagus responds like it has a mind of its own, and it almost hurts. Not enough to restrict my breath, but enough to make me conscious of the slim shape and small size of the tunnel that serves the path of physical survival. Suddenly, my mental journey through time with you comes to the day you were no more. Well, no more with me as I understand it. I see myself helpless, and again, very selfishly, I pity me. The energy that began in my groin has left a faint trail of its presence in my throat and is now clawing its way through my face. Uncontrolled by my conscious mind, my nostrils flare in an attempt to adjust to the diminished airflow caused by the swelling in my sinuses. A response triggered by the journey of the immaterial mass making its way through the core of me. Just as I open my mouth to make use of an alternative breath escape, the conduit connecting my sinuses to the glands of my eyes begin to swell. I notice that my surroundings are not only mentally blurry, but physically distorted as well. The corners of my eyes itch slightly as I try to push my self-pity aside and hold on to the visions of you and my mind smiling at me. I hear your voice, just as clear as if you were whispering in my ear when I laid next to you. My lower eyelids are weighted with the hold the energy clawing on my face has. Invisible fingers seem to pull on my lower lash line, forcing me to squint just a little. The thought of how much my life has changed now that you are no longer a part of it invokes an alternate ending answering the question, what if you were still here? And again, selfishly, I feel sorry for myself. These thoughts mixed with the itch in the corner of my eyes combined with the tingling of my sinuses in unison with the constriction of my esophagus affected by the tightness in my belly stimulated by the energy of my throat causes me to blink. The energy, the material mass making its way through the core of me, clawing up my face is released as moisture in the form of a drop escaping the windows of my soul. I miss you, my daughter, and I cry.
Girl, you don't know how sensitive I am. Lord, help me. I was telling Tenaria, I was like, I hope I got to get through this without shedding any tears. But these are tears of joy. Anytime I do shed tears, I don't shed victim tears. I shed victorious tears. Tears of joy. That was so beautiful, Aziza. You're so gifted. You're so talented. You're so beautiful.
Thank you, Deborah.
It's true. Listen, will you come back?
Yeah, sure, of course. I would love to do a reading from.
Yes, we gotta have you back. I got some
And also
exciting.
questions and answers. I'm so used to like getting questions from the audience. So, you know, we just
I'm throwing up their comments. All they're doing is saying beautiful, and you know, I thought maybe we could get some. You're right. Writing is therapeutic. It releases. It heals. It sets us free. Be free, beautiful. That's comments, and bless you, my sister. They're just giving you some love, you know,
thank you.
and
Thank you so much.
I guess they didn't really need to ask any questions. It's women, and they're just being sympathetic and loving to your story, you know, which is good. And I usually have my questions all wrote out. I didn't write a thing because I can relate to what it is. Someone said, Tahisha said, bring her back. Yeah, we got to bring her back. We got to bring you back. I have some exciting news. Not going to let the cat all the way out of the bag, but I may have to just go on hiatus after the first week of November because I have to fly out to California on a business trip.
Ah.
That's it.
Keep me abreast.
Tahisha, you better not say nothing. And I will. But I want y'all to get her a book. Get her a book. Come on, y'all. Y'all know what we do. What is this? Support team. And look at all the stuff that she does. 501c3. She's laughing, Tahisha. 501c3, Precious Little Angels Incorporation. Come on, y'all. Put in the comments that you're buying her book. I know that Dr. Tenaria said that she's getting the book. Is there anybody else? Come on, put in the comments. Do you have a Cash App, darling?
Yes, I do. Actually, it's Cash App PLL nonprofit.
Wait a minute.
I'm gonna put it in the. I don't know. Will this work?
Here she says I'll purchase. I got.
I put it in the Oh, what happened? Okay, I put it in the comments.
Oh, okay. So
oh no, that's in private chat. Let me see.
Oh, $. What is it? PLL nonprofit.
Right.
Okay.
Oh, look, I didn't even see all of these comments. Wow.
Yeah.
And then the website is.
We want your Cash App for right now.
Okay, I put that in. So
I see someone has it $PLL nonprofit.
Right.
Okay, so we're gonna sow into her life. We're going to sow into her ministry.
And any of the viewers that
is this it?
Whether they're professors.
Is that the Cash App?
That's the Cash App, yes.
Good. Okay, yes. So he could be on spot. Okay, so we're going to leave that up. Okay. Tahisha, text me that, Tahisha. And we're going to sow into her ministry. Yeah, my computer's going dark. Okay, so we got to wrap this up.
All right.
I unplugged my computer and brought it over here, and I'm so upset. I'd like to keep you hostage, but I know I got to let you go. It's been a joy having you, AZIZA Kibibi. AZIZA Kibibi, right?
Yes.
I got the name. I messed the name up. You're a joy. You are such a delight. You have really inspired somebody tonight, and I'm just so excited that you came on, and we will support. Watch your Cash App tonight, young lady.
Okay.
And we will be in touch with you when I come back from my business trip. I'm going to link up with you. I want to help you all I can with your organization and be a part, whatever I can do to contribute, whatever I can do to help. I want to be able to do that.
Where are you located, Deborah?
I'm in Freehold.
You're not. Okay, so you're in Jersey. Okay, yeah.
I'm 40 minutes from you. So yeah, I'm going to inbox you. I'm going to inbox you my phone number. We're going to link up. I'm going to talk to you. But for now, I have to let you go. I don't want to. Everyone get Unashamed, a life tainted. by AZIZA KIBIBI. Be blessed, my darling.
You too, as well. Thank you. Be blessed, everyone.
Well, that's another episode of Supporting Black Authors Book Club. I hope you enjoyed our interview tonight. AZIZA KIBIBI, Unashamed, A Life Tainted. I started reading this book. I'm proud of myself. I got through it, without crying. I want you to come back next week with Matthew Knowles, Destiny's Child, The Untold Story. Come on, you really don't want to miss this. Next Tuesday, same time, 8 o'clock. And we're going to have my opening November with a diehard friend and a diehard fan of the Supporting Black Authors Book Club, Dr. Tenaria Drummond Smith, National Prayer Book, a #1 best-selling on the Amazon. And I want you to come back next Tuesday. So I just want y'all to sow a seed. Tahisha said, seed sown. Thank you, baby. You know you're going to be blessed, darling. You know it, right? Come on, y'all. Sow into her life. Sow into her life. That's how you get your blessings. You are blessed to be a blessing. So I want you to come back next Tuesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Please go in peace. Be blessed. Like, share.